Yes, I failed the German test. The winter is dark and I didn't shave for this video. So you're probably thinking I'm not the right person to talk about this topic, right? Because I failed the test. I'm struggling with learning the German language for about 6 years. I have a lot to say about this topic, that's for sure. I hope in this video I can share with you all of my knowledge and maybe together we can learn something from my mistakes. Because this is going to be a long video, it's a very complicated topic, I'm going to separate it into chunks.
So feel free to skip ahead if some of the topics are not so relevant for you. In chapter 1 we are going to talk about the general system of learning German in Germany. How is the leveling system? What are the requirements? And what to expect to learn in each level. In chapter 2 we are going to talk more about language courses and schools, what's available and how to find the right course for you. I will also share with you a little bit of my experience, but in chapter 3 I will dive more deeply into my personal story, what the courses that I took and how was my experience with different teachers and classes. Also I will share with you my point of view on what makes a good or bad teacher and how to recognize it before it's too late. Also I will share with you my personal and intimate stories about my journey. Be aware though, it's going to get a little bit emotional. In chapter 4 I will try to summarize a little bit and to understand with you why I failed the test and how can you do better than me. In chapter 5 we are going to talk more about how to get better in everyday life. I will also give you some cool tips and tricks on how to learn German. And in the last chapter, number 6, we will try to answer the big question, should you learn German yourself?
Okay, in chapter number 1 we are going to try to learn the general system of learning German in Germany. In general we can say that there are 3 levels in learning a German language. A, B and C, but for each one there is levels inside of them nested. So A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2. Also for each one of those there are 2 levels within them. So A11, A12, A21, A22, etc. So if you want to finish all of B1 you need 6 courses. So take that in mind, it can take a lot of time. This is also what the system says it's the minimum requirement to find a job in Germany. You can argue if that's true or not, but this is what the system is saying. So if you want to play this game, you will need at least level B1. If you are planning to study here in German, for example, if you want to enroll in university, you will need to do something called Test DAF. The level for that test is around B2 and C1, so it's a little bit more advanced than just B1. There is also something worth talking about called integration courses. Integration courses combine language course and orientation course. Orientation course is, I like to call them indoctrination courses, and I know for some people this is actually a requirement to find a job here in Germany. So this is also something that's worth thinking about. There is a lot to say and to talk about integration courses, and if this is something that interests you, I encourage you to go to the links below and read more about it, because unfortunately I was never part of that system, so in this video I will not talk a lot about it. So let's dive a little bit deeper now. In chapter 2 we are going to talk a little bit about the courses and the schools. For each person a different course or a different school will be better. My first recommendation is to look for what's around you, because if you are going to attend a German course you don't want to travel for 1 hour or 2 hours and back. There is also a separation between intensive courses, then evening courses or morning courses. For example, a morning or an evening course usually will be 2 to 3 times a week and it will take 3 hours. An intensive course is 5 days a week and it's much more intensive, like the name suggests. And also keep in mind that every school has its own thing and schedule, so you need to look and see what's good for you personally. For me personally, I had to take an evening course, and to be honest, I don't think it was very ideal for me. I was most of the time very exhausted and very stressed after work, and if I were to enroll again, I think I would take a morning course, not an evening course. Because I'm a freelancer, actually my hours are flexible, so maybe if I were to take a morning course and to start my day with learning German, and after that going back home, maybe have a rest and start working in the evening, maybe that would be a little bit better for me. So you need to think with yourself what will fit you the best. If you are planning to study here and you want to do the test DAF, I would highly recommend you take the intensive courses. Don't work, just invest 1 year in studying this language. In my opinion, this is the only way if you want to enroll in university here. Now, because Berlin is an international city, there are people here from all over the world, and German classes are very popular. There is more demand than supply, actually. So if you want to enroll in a German class, my recommendation is to do it a few months in advance, because maybe you will need to wait a few months until your course will begin. In most schools, when you apply for a German class, they will give you a small test just to see what is your level of German. From my experience, actually, those tests are quite accurate. So I would recommend you just follow the recommendation. And also because it's a very international city, you will find that in German class you will find people from all over the world, maybe some people from your country also. And this is the one thing that I really love about German class, that I had the chance to meet people from all over the world and to talk with them and to be friends with them. Actually, one of my best friends, even today, I met in German class in the first year I came to Berlin. We were sitting one next to another and actually we laughed all the time. Maybe that was also not very good for studying, but actually, in my opinion, when you enjoy something, you do it better. And in my first year, I learned more than the last 2 courses that I took. We'll talk about it later. Okay, so how do you find a German class? This is something that is very complicated and I cannot really help you because I don't want to recommend a specific school or something like that, because honestly, I don't know all of them. There are so many. I went to a really bad one and I don't want to say what's the name of the school, but I don't want also to recommend it. So my advice to you, if you use social media, Facebook is still a thing in Berlin. So you can go to Berlin Expats. It's a Berlin Facebook group. People there usually are helpful and you can also search in the group. I know also there are a lot of bloggers and a lot of forums dedicated to this topic. So you can also check that, but also a simple Google search. Just of course take note that there are a lot of advertisements, skip all the ads. Another thing that you need to think about when enrolling into German class is whether or not you have a deadline. For example, if you are planning to study here, you need to check with the university you want to study at what is the deadline. Also, if you're applying to a specific visa that requires B1 certificate, you also need to know when is the visa appointment. If you are taking German course as part of your job, sometimes your job can offer you to take a German course. You need to talk with your boss and see the time schedule and whether or not you have a deadline and if you can choose the hours or not. And maybe the most complicated conundrum is if you're a freelancer like me, you need to really dig into yourself and think whether or not you want to take an intensive course, an evening course or a morning course. As I told you before, I made the mistake to take an evening course because I found out recently that I'm a morning person, and because I'm working from home, I can allow myself this flexibility to start working a little bit late than most people. I started to learn German back in Israel before I moved to Berlin. I took half a course, like A11, and it was very good. It was in the Goethe Institute. Just a quick warning, this chapter is going to be a little bit heavy. I'm going to tell you a lot of my personal stories. Maybe for some of you that's not so relevant and you don't want to listen to all that. It's going to be a very long chapter. I decided to put everything in, but also if you find it a little bit boring, just skip ahead. There is a lot to come after that. It was in the Goethe Institute. The teacher was a true teacher. You can see he has a lot of passion. This is what he wanted to do in his life, to be a teacher. So he invested a lot of energy. But because it was the most basic level, we only learned about numbers and basic words and just a little bit of grammar and catchphrases. When I moved to Germany, I had to take some more courses. The Goethe Institute actually is one of the most expensive ones. I wanted to try something a little bit cheaper, so I went to a different school, and the teacher was also very good. He was around my age, maybe just a little bit older, and he was very like-minded. So after classes, sometimes we went to a bar to drink together, and he was like a friend. You can say maybe it's not so good, but from my experience, actually it was wonderful. I learned a lot from the courses that he gave. So I studied with him 2 courses until I finished level A21, and then I decided to have a break because I had a lot of stress from work. And also this teacher told me that he's not going to continue, he's going to move out of Berlin. And that was the first mistake, because I found out that actually I'm not thinking too much about learning German in this pause period, and I'm using the little bits that I know that is kind of sufficient, but not really. I still use like very broken German. But after a while I came to a point where I said to myself, I must learn a little bit more, I must continue. So I went back to the same school and I continued from that level, and actually I found out that I didn't lose anything. I had the pause for 2 years. Actually, I think at the beginning I was one of the best one in class because I'm living here for a few years and I observe a little bit. So I was very confident, for example, in speaking German in class. But unfortunately, this time the teacher was the complete opposite. She was not organized at all. I felt like she's talking all the time and she doesn't give us the opportunity to talk herself and to practice her language. And when I was talking, she didn't even corrected my mistakes. She was just like start talking herself. So that was very annoying. About good and bad teachers, this is something that you need to learn how to identify. If you start a course and the teacher is not good, you need to stop immediately. You need to go back to the offices, complain about this teacher, and maybe to ask to go to a different course with a different teacher. I know a lot of people do that, and that was my mistake not to recognize it. Because what happened is that we started in a big class. We were about 22 people, and after 3 classes, we went down to 8. Like literally from 22 to 8. A lot of people quitted very, very soon because they recognized that there is something not good happening in this class. I'm just a little bit disappointed that I didn't do it myself, because I sticked with this teacher for 3 more courses. Yeah, it just went worse and worse as time goes by. I start to feel very uncomfortable talking in class. So there are a few ways to recognize if your teacher is good or bad. First is to see the demographic in class. If people are not showing up anymore, it says something also about the teacher. You need to observe yourself if you're learning, if you get the opportunity to talk, if you feel confident when you're talking in class. If you don't feel confident, if you don't feel like your teacher is helping you, you should immediately stop and quit and go to the offices and complain. There is a lot of demand here in Berlin for teachers because there are a lot of demand for courses, and they will take almost everybody to be a teacher. And nowadays, language teachers have a very simple system. They have a book and they have a projector. The book is connected to the projector and they can just follow what the book is saying. So this is what the teacher did. She only followed the book. We only solve exercises in the book, and that's about it. A good teacher, on the other hand, will take this only as a base ground. For example, my previous teacher before that brought us texts from Bertolt Brecht, for example, and some songs, and he showed us some videos on YouTube that are very cool and funny, but she didn't. She only followed the book, and the only videos she showed us are videos from the book. This is not engaging in any way, because to be honest, those books are horrible. Also, you will find in almost every German class there is one student that is like the most confident one. The teacher will recognize it, and if she or he is not a very experienced teacher, they will be fixated to talk only with this student. For the teachers, that's a very easy escape route if they don't feel confident enough to be teachers or they don't have enough experience. So what happened is that I didn't talk at all in the last 2 courses that I took. That was really a shame. I only talked in games from the book that she gave us to talk with each other, with the other students. So if I have grammar mistakes or vocabulary mistakes, there was nobody to correct it, nobody to help. So what's the point? I don't feel that I gain anything from the last courses that I took. I have a lot of friends that also study German, and all of them are better than me. I'm not a good student, and this is something that I need to know about myself next time. I cannot go anymore to the affordable classes. It's not right for me. I need to invest more money and to go to better classes. This is what I learned from this mistake. If you are a good student, and you should know if you're a good student or not from your past experience. Maybe you can save a little bit of money. You don't need to invest in a very good, high-quality course with a good teacher. And I met a lot of people in class that were very good students, that was enough for them. But for me, it wasn't. Also, I have a lot of learning differences. I'm struggling with dyslexia all of my life and dyscalculia. Actually, when I was a baby, I was a little bit sick. I had a problem with my ears and I couldn't hear in my first years. And I only started developing language skills when I was 2 years old. So it's very hard for me to learn a language. When I'm speaking my mother tongue Hebrew or English with my friends, I usually speak very slow and I need to think a lot about vocabulary because it's something that is a little bit more difficult for me than other people. If you're struggling with issues like that, you need to talk about it with the office when you're registered to ask them if they're aware of those kind of problems that some people have and what is the solution that they can give you. If there is no solution they can give you, if they just ignore it or something, go to another school. They don't deserve your money. I had a very humiliating experience with the test that I failed at. Before we took the test, the teacher asked the people in class if the time schedule is okay for them. And then she also asked me personally, because she knows I'm the slowest reader, and I told her, I don't know, maybe. I also have dyslexia, so maybe I will need a little bit extra time. And she looked at me, what? You have what? What are you talking about? And I told her, yes, I have dyslexia. What? She said. And then I realized she doesn't know what is dyslexia. And I had to say in front of the whole class what are learning differences and what is dyslexia. And that was very humiliating. Also to realize after 3 courses I took with this teacher that she doesn't know. And I think this is something that you can't be a teacher without knowing. So anyway, the test itself was horrible. I had the worst test anxiety I ever had in my life. I don't know why. I couldn't understand anything from what I was hearing. I couldn't read anymore. I was completely blocked out. So it was quite obvious I failed the test from early on. And then after the test finished, she did something really, really cruel to me. We solved the test together in class. She asked everybody to say in Eastern what's his score. And when it came to my turn, I had to stand up and say in front of everybody that I failed miserably. Less than 50% of my answers were right. I had tears in my eyes and I was shaking and I wasn't thinking straight. And she was also a little bit shocked. She asked me, why didn't I say something? Maybe she could have helped. So I took my stuff and I told her, no, I don't want you to help me. I'm just going to take a course in a better class. And then I slammed the door behind me and ran away crying from this class. Yeah, so that was one of the worst experiences I had in my adult life. I felt like I am in elementary school again. It brought back really bad memories. So if you have learning differences, if you know that you are a little bit special, you need a little bit more time, so take care of that from day one. Don't hide it like I did. Another thing that I did that was a very big mistake, at the first few lessons, I realized that the class is super boring. I'm almost falling asleep in class. The teacher is not really engaging. She's not telling anything interesting. She's not funny at all, which is totally cool. Not everybody's supposed to be funny, but other people in class are also not interacting with her. So I took it upon myself to make everything a little bit more interesting. I started telling jokes and being more engaging and trying to be funny. It actually worked a little bit. People enjoyed it. I know it because they told me after class that they really like my humor, and I would say, what humor? I don't have a sense of humor, do I? Anyway, why it was a big mistake? Because it's not my job. Teaching, giving tours, making YouTube videos, at the end of the day, is show business. And a teacher needs to know how to be entertaining because this is part of the job. You're staying in front of people and it's not only teaching them. Because I can read the book alone, I can solve the problem by myself and check online maybe if I did mistakes or not. I don't need a teacher to give me those tasks. The teacher also needs to be a little bit of a showman or a showwoman. And she wasn't. It's not my role or your role to take this part. If you know that you have a tendency to become maybe this kind of personality in class, try to hold it back a little bit, give other people also room to express themselves. And also there was another thing that every time that I opened my mouth, people expected me to say something funny. I did feel to be funny all the time, you know. I had a lot of stress in real life from work and like social life and whatever. One day I remember we learned a new word, like how to say disappointed in German, and we had to say a sentence with this word disappointed, one after the other. I don't know why she gave us this task. Everybody's tried to say something a little bit funny and lightheaded about it, but when it came to my turn, I said my father really disappointed me when I was a child, and everybody laughed. And I think that distanced me a little bit from the class is that the teacher and this whole program of the class was very narrow-minded. It was only following the book and the system, and I'm really aware of those kind of things. I'm really don't feel comfortable to be part of a system. The teacher was not open-minded about those topics. For example, there was one task she gave us. We had to assemble a sentence. It was most boys want to be because okay. What are those? So everybody wrote, most boys want to be soccer players because they like Ronaldo or another soccer player. Every single one in the class wrote exactly this sentence, and she was very delightful about it. When it comes to my turn, I wrote, most boys want to be girls because women can carry babies. And she was looking at me, don't know what to say. She thought I made a mistake at the beginning, so she tried to understand if this is exactly what I wanted to say. And I was saying, yeah, no, I didn't make any mistake. This is exactly what I want to say. She didn't understand. She said, oh, yeah, you had a good idea. Idea. And I was like, no, it's not an idea. This is like, I really feel like that sometimes. You know, when I was a child, I was jealous of some girls in kindergarten because I knew they can have babies and I cannot because I'm a man. Also, there was like a talk about bathing suits. Someone said that women are wearing bikinis. And I said, but men also can wear bikinis. And the teacher said, no, don't say that. It's not true.
You made a mistake.
I said, no, I didn't. It's okay. Men can also wear a bikini if they want to. She said,
oh yeah, maybe in Berlin because it's like very liberal city.
Okay, yeah, it's a liberal city, so what? Yeah, it's that the bad thing that Berlin is a liberal city? And she said,
okay, I understand you, but please don't say that in the test.
Okay, I want to talk also a little bit about barriers in everyday life when living in Berlin, about talking German. Well, first of all, a lot of time because people recognize that I have a foreign accent, I'm doing mistakes in grammar or vocabulary, they will switch immediately to English. Even though I keep speaking German because I want to practice my German, they will answer me in English. I think this is sometimes a little bit rude. Like I remember when I was living in Jerusalem, there were a lot of foreigners that want to learn Hebrew, and every time they spoke Hebrew with mistake, I was like, not even fixing them, you know, just smiling and trying to be friendly. In Berlin, it's very different than that. People are not patient if you're doing mistakes with German. I feel like if your German is not in a high level, you're not allowed to speak German. I felt a lot of aggression from a lot of people when I'm trying to speak German and making mistakes. People are angry at me. Why are you angry? I try to learn your language, you know? It was 4 years ago. I had a German colleague. He was a bus driver and I was the tour guide in the bus, and I tried to speak German with him and he was laughing at me all the time, like really cruel laughter. He was humiliating me in front of everybody. He was saying like, oh, young boy, you need to learn some German. And he was always talking very hard German for me to understand, like very sophisticated words. And when I was apologizing, I'm sorry, I don't understand, can you please? He was very angry at me. No, you should speak German in Germany. And like it was one day that I almost started crying in front of everybody in the bus, and I wanted to stop the bus and just run back home. I held myself and I didn't do that. This experience with the colleague was so violent that I decided I don't want to learn German anymore. And I had this break, I told you, of 2 years, because I felt like if this is the reaction I get from my colleagues or from the people around me, that they're aggressive because I'm trying to speak their language, they don't deserve me to speak their language. This was my thought back then. Now I'm thinking differently. Actually, I want to learn German. I think it's important if I'm living here. I want to understand when I'm getting letters. I want to know how to read them. I still feel very embarrassed when I'm trying to speak German because I told you I don't have experience with that, and my experience I do have is not very good. It's not positive. I hope you will have a better experience. I know there is a racism problem here in Germany. Not a lot of people are talking about it. Like, look at me. I'm totally Middle Eastern, and you can't really know where exactly in the Middle East I come from because, you can't really tell. A lot of time I feel like people looking at me and they thinking that I'm coming from Syria or from another Arabic country around, and a lot of people here are right-wing and a lot of them are also racist, so they will immediately be a little bit aggressive when they come in contact with me, especially when I try to speak German. But then if I tell them that actually I'm coming from Israel and I'm Jewish, they will switch. They will become my best friend. They will have a creepy smile. So this is even worse, So those kind of experience really hold me back many years from learning German because those experiences are really painful. If you are European, if you have blue eyes, maybe you will not have this problem. I know a lot of my friends that don't look Middle Eastern, they don't have this problem. Another thing is that I have a lot of friends who are studying German or studied before and they're really good at it. They don't have learning differences like I have. They don't have problem with language like I have, so they learn it quicker, and they're really patronizing on me. In social events, they say, "Oh, Amir, you need to learn more German. Why don't you speak German? You're living here for so many years." And they don't understand that I'm a little bit different than most people. I need a little bit more time learning English. Like, okay, I make English video now. English is my second language, but it took me blood and sweat and many, many years to start talking English. It wasn't easy like for most people. It's not easy for everybody to acquire a new language. And a lot of my friends do not understand it. So in social events, they will say, "Okay, let's speak German now because we want to see how is your German or to help you to speak German." And like, I completely block out, I don't want to play this game. I don't want to play this game. I don't want everything to be focused on me. Show us your German or let's help you to learn German. I talk about it with my friends and it's getting a little bit better recently. They don't push me so much as they used to. So all in all, in general, I can say that I failed the German test recently because I took the wrong course, because I didn't notice soon enough that it's not the right course for me. I had too much stress from work and I had a lot of social barriers. The test itself actually is not so hard. It's not about what we did in class at all. Okay, in class what we did is only like solving exercises in the book about grammar, vocabulary, reading a little bit. But the test was nothing like it. I felt like I'm not prepared for this test because in everyday life I don't engage in the German language. This is why I failed the test. The course didn't really give me any tools to succeed. Okay, so let's talk in this chapter about how to get better. First of all, you really need to know yourself as a student. If you're a good student or bad student, you can look at your past and see in high school maybe or university if you were a good or bad student. Another thing that is really nice to get, and it's super cheap, is to get a library card. I got mine for 10 euros and it's for the whole libraries in Berlin. I recently borrowed my first German book. It's called Akira. It's a Japanese manga. And if I don't understand something, I can understand the context because it's a comic book. Yeah, I can look at the pictures. So this is a really nice recommendation. This is something that I encourage everybody to do. Another thing that I know that a lot of people do, and it's really helpful, is to watch television and listen to radio. I never had a television in my adult life. I don't like watching television, but if you're the kind of person who likes reality shows, Germany has the worst quality reality shows ever with the worst language. It's really good to learn German from, like street language. Maybe you will enjoy it. I will hate it for sure, I know. I tried to watch a series that I liked in the past, dubbed to German, but I couldn't even watch the first episode because the dubbing for me, when there is no lip sync, it gets me really crazy, like I can't watch it. Maybe it's because I'm dealing a lot with video editing and movie making. Dubbed movie for me are I don't know, I'm allergic to them, I cannot watch them. But if you don't have this problem, yeah, go ahead, watch all your favorite movies and series dubbed to German and start watching a lot of trashy television German. I know from a lot of people that told me that this is the way to get better in German, just watching a lot of television. I will not do that though. Another thing that I tried is to have a tandem partner. It's a language exchange that you can have with a friend or with someone that you can find online. My German was really shitty. It was in my first year in Berlin and I couldn't really speak German. So it was a little bit like not effective, but actually now I really want to find a new one. I don't know why you would watch this video if you already know German, but if you do and you're looking for a tandem partner, yeah. Another tip that I can give you is to be very brave. Try to speak German when you sit in a bar, for example. Try to start a conversation in German. It's really hard. I don't do that, but I know some people do that and it's effective. On dating apps, if you use them, also try to communicate in German. So you need to have a passion for it. I know some people that really have a passion for languages. They will be good at it. English is like super easy. But German is considered to be a hard language, but it is not super hard. Like it's somewhere in the middle, I think. Okay, so the last chapter that I would like to talk with you about is, should you learn German? A lot of people say that in Berlin you don't need German. It's not exactly right. Maybe you don't need to have German on day one, but a lot of people will expect you after a while to start speaking German. This is a little bit of a social pressure that you will get here. It doesn't mean that you need to learn German. Like I know people that live here for more than 10 years and they don't speak German and they have a job and they live normal life, yeah? It's very individual. If you don't want to learn German, I guess this is totally cool. If you do want to learn German, it's also totally cool. In general, I can say that it really enriches your life when you understand what's going on around you. So I would highly recommend people to learn German. But if you don't have time for it, you don't have a passion for it, I would say just don't do it. This is only a question you can answer. So this is the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoy it, please give it a like. It doesn't cost any money. And I will see you all in the next one. Bye bye.